So if you'd like to address the public, feel free to step up to the table there. Yes, they can hear you on YouTube.
So I wrote it, so I didn't. I just would like to say that I am deeply grateful to the board and executive cabinet for entrusting me with this new role within JUHSD. I'm genuinely excited to amplify the incredible initiatives and achievements of JUHSD to our broader community, and I am committed to furthering my contributions within CTE. I just want to say once again, thank you for this opportunity to make a meaningful impact to our communities in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone else have any comments? No? Okay, I'm going to move on. Local indicators presentation, and I believe I'm turning it over to Superintendent Prester for this.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to try and do Ms. Baca's presentation service, but I'm not her. Jay, can you put it in slideshow mode, please? Thanks. And then let me make sure this is working. Ooh, do I have control now? All right, I do. I have control. All right. So I'm presenting for Ms. Baca. She did all the work. So thank you, because she made a beautiful presentation. So each year, local education agencies are required to report on the local indicators, the outcomes to their local governing board in conjunction with the adoption of the LCAP. So these are local indicators. State data is not available for these indicators. So the priorities identified in the LCAP are the P1, basic services and conditions, which is like appropriate teacher assignments, sufficient instructional materials and facilities, and good repair. Priority area 2 is implementation of state standards. Priority 3 is parent and family engagement. Priority 6 is school climate as measured by a local climate survey. And then priority 7 is access to a broad course of study. So, and I will go over all of those as we go. So the requirements are that we need to annually measure progress in meeting the requirements of the LCFF priorities, report the results as a part of a non-consent item at the same public meeting of the local governing board or body at which the local control and accountability plan is adopted, and then report the results to the public through the dashboard, utilizing the State Board of Education adopted self-reflection tools. All right. So P1 is basic services and conditions. All right. So we're required to report 3 things: that our LEA teacher assignment monitoring and outcome data, which is available from DataQuest. Ours is from 21-22. So just so you know that it lags. That's the latest set of data. We're also required to report the number or percentage of students without access to their own copies of standards aligned instructional materials for use at school and at home. And then the third thing is the number of identified instances where facilities do not meet the good repair standard. And that includes deficiencies and extreme deficiencies. Just kind of want to give a caveat that this is only the second year of collecting this data. And we are working on figuring out how our information systems are communicating with the state. We're cleaning it up, but it is not perfect. So it's not perfect. And those systems are HR systems, ed services, and IT kind of all working together. So if you take a look, some of these are some of my notes. If you take a look, the teacher assignment monitoring outcome data, you see our total teaching staff full-time equivalents. And then the definitions of what so clear means that a teacher has their preliminary or their clear credentials. That's where you want to be. Out of field, we have 9.3%. That is someone who has a credential, but is not yet demonstrated subject matter competence in the subject area or for the student population associated with the assignment. So they have a credential, but they haven't demonstrated that subject matter competence. Intern is someone who has a bachelor's degree and has demonstrated subject matter competency in the subject areas or for the student population associated with the assignment, and who holds an intern credential while they complete coursework requirements to obtain a preliminary credential. So we've got 1.3% of interns. Ineffective, 6.3%. That indicates that one or more relevant attributes of the assignment had no legal authorization from a permit, credential, or waiver. So they're sort of telling us definitions of these misassignments. Incomplete, and so we had ineffective 6.3%. Incomplete is 3.6%. That indicates that missing or incorrect information about the assignment was reported to CalPADS by the LEA, which prevented a complete and accurate determination of the assignment authorization during the CTC assignment monitoring. Okay. Unknown is 0.3%. That indicates there's insufficient information about the assignment reported to CalPADS. And then NA indicates that the assignment either required no authorization or evaluation. So the story here is ineffective, which was 6.3%, is not okay. That's not a good number. Unfortunately, the information I think is more, I think that our worry is more with our reporting systems being accurate, less that there actually is 6.3% of ineffective teachers. But again, the ineffective is that one or more relevant attributes of the assignment had no legal authorization. I apologize that I cannot give you more accurate information than that. Okay, we go to P2. Lori Robinson is supposed to be here to present on P2, and I think we're earlier than we thought. So I'm going to skip P2 and go to P3. Okay, so P3 is parental involvement and family engagement. So you can see building relationships between school staff and families. There's a rating scale. 1 is exploration and research development, and then it moves up to 5 being full implementation and sustainability. So 3 is initial implementation, 4 is full. So we have a rating of 4, which is full implementation on building capacity of staff and building trusting, respectful relationships. Full implementation for creating welcome environments. For progress, a rating of 4 in progress in supporting staff to learn about each family's strengths. And then a rating of 3, which is initial implementation, which is progress in developing multiple opportunities for the LEA and school sites to engage in two-way communication between families and educators, using language that's understandable and accessible to families. So we've done a much better job with communication from school principals in the district. We have interpreters, we have translators, we've worked on building relationships. However, we don't have the level of engagement that we'd like. We feel it's much improved, but there's much more work to be done. So P3, parental involvement and family engagement, building partnerships for student outcomes. So we've got scores of initial implementation in all of these sections, progress in providing professional learning and support to teachers and principals to improve a school's capacity to partner with families, progress in providing families with information and resources to support student learning and development in the home, progress in implementing policies or programs for teachers to meet with families, students to discuss student progress and ways to work together, and then progress in supporting families to understand and exercise their legal rights and advocate. So again, during meetings, we talk about partnerships. We make sure that schools have family nights where they learn how to access synergy, et cetera. I think there are certain schools that are further along on these goals than others. Principals all are communicating regularly home, and that's really new in the last few years. And then special ed has parent advisory committee, though there's low attendance. These are some examples. So we're in the initial implementation. I mean, I think that we've definitely made steps, but we have more work to do. All right. Parental involvement and family engagement, seeking input for decision making. So we are at initial implementation in the first two sections and then beginning development at the last two. So the first ones are centered around building the capacity of and supporting principals and staff to effectively engage families in advisory groups with decision making, and candidly at the district level too. So we've talked about some advisory committees that we're going to put into place next year. And it's a whole different level, like actually getting people, actually being part of the decisions that we're making. Progress in building the capacity of and supporting family members to effectively engage in advisory groups. So I just said that. Providing all families with opportunities to provide input on policies and programs. And implementing strategies to reach and seek input from any underrepresented groups in the school community. And then finally, progress in providing opportunities to have families, teachers, principals, and district administrators work together to plan, design, implement, and evaluate family engagement activities at school and district levels. So I feel we scored ourselves at the lower. This is a self-reflection tool. We scored ourselves lower in this because it's proven quite difficult for us to figure out the best ways to serve our families and to get our families in and engaged and a part of the decision making. So we are still working on that. Okay. P6 is school climate. So we use the Healthy Kids survey. The participation rate is about 61 to 62%, which is an increase overall. But we need to focus on student groups that responded in the lowest amounts. I also want to call out that Filipinos in the Healthy Kids survey are grouped with Asians. They're not called out. And Karina and I were talking about, we need to really find a locally administrated survey that is valid and reliable. Healthy Kids is valid and reliable, so that's what we've been using, but we don't think it's really serving, it's not really getting at all the information that we want. So going over the data, grade 9 and grade 11 is when the Healthy Kids survey is given. Grade 9, 59% of the students say that they, that pretty much true or very much true that they have access to caring adults in school. It's an 8% increase from the previous year. That's good, but it's still very low, way too low. Grade 11, 60% said that they pretty much or very much true have access to caring adults in school. Again, it's a 2% increase from the previous year, but far too low. And then when you take a look at the caring adult relationships broken down by ethnicity in grades 9 and 11, the numbers are small enough to not be reported for American Indian or Alaska Native. Again, the Asian or Asian American is lumping the Filipino kids in there, but grade 9, 65%, and grade 11, 64%. The Black and African American, 60% in grade 9. And in grade 11, there's a too small amount to even be reported. And I think I wrote the number down. Of course, it's not in front of me. I think that there are, I wrote it somewhere. I think that there's only 52 African American kids in the district. And so the way the numbers were, they just didn't get reported out at grade 11. There must not be a lot of 11th graders. Hispanic or Latinx, 52% responded that they had caring adults in school, 52% at grade 9, 54 at grade 11. You'll notice that that's lower than the others. The numbers didn't get reported for Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander because I think of just sheer numbers in the district. White, 58% at grade 9, 60 at grade 11. mixed 64, 69, and then something else, 56, 52. So, 50 to 60% of the kids say that they have caring adults at school, which means 40% or more of our students are not reporting that there are caring adults at school for them. So that is a big glaring thing for me that we are focused on and working on, but that's a problematic data point. Okay. P6, school climate continued. So this is perceived safety at school. So this is a percentage who feel safe or very safe. In grade 9, 63%. And grade 11, 60%. Those are both an increase again. So 7% increase from previous year. So that's comparing ninth graders, not the same class, but the ninth graders from last year. And 2% increase from in grade 11. Again, good to be increasing, not high enough. And the survey question was, how safe do you feel when you're at school? And again, the numbers kind of mirror the numbers from the previous slide, where Asian Americans, 66%, 56%. Again, the African American, it is 52 district wide. So there's just no data for grade 11. And the numbers are kind of consistent as you go down. We're hovering around 60%.
I mean, the big difference is it drops dramatically for our Black and African. It goes from.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. Yeah, dramatically. Okay. P7, access to a broad course of study. So districts decide how to define broad course of study. We've decided to use the A to G completion rate as our metric. The reason why we use that, I believe, was actually when we did the equity study years ago with Ed Trust West. That was kind of called out to focus on our A to G completion rate. So we could have used access to AP classes. We could have used, CTE access. There are different things we could use and could decide to also use in the future. So there has been a significant increase in A to G rate over the years, with a 55% as a base now for all students. In 2016 and 17, we had 0% of students learning English. And now we have 40% of students learning English. So that's a big success for us. So if we take a look, all students, and it goes top to bottom, 21, 22, 23, all students started at 44%, went to 50%. And then in 2023, we're 55%. So it's steadily increasing. Students learning English in 2021, again, in 2016, 17, it was 0%. But in 2021, it was 15%. And then we moved up to 23. And then last year was 28%. So it's increasing. Socioeconomically disadvantaged, A to G rate in 2021 was 37% to 41 and then 44%. Homeless students A to G rate was 60% and it's 15 and 33. We think that's actually just about the numbers of homeless students and the particular students that were in our schools at that time. Students with disability 2021 was 9.8% and it's up to 19% this year. So we are seeing progress. And then we broke it down, A to G rate for African American and Asian Filipino. And here we're able to break it down into Filipino because it's because it's not using healthy kids. Hispanic and Latino were white. So you can see African American went from 6 to 20 to 33%. Still not at all what it should be. Asian 61 up to 67, Filipino 45 up to 64, Latino 31 up to 42, white 52 up to 62, and then 2 or more races has remained steady. And then looking at the different schools. interesting. So for all students and then broken down by ethnicity. So Jefferson 63.1, and this is just last year. We're not comparing the years. Jefferson 63.1, Oceana 76.1, Terra Nova 59.1, and Westmore 45.9. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think there are some reasons for that. I think two of the main reasons are they're changing their school day to afford students more opportunities to complete classes. So that's one thing. And also looking at some of their grading policies, kids simply failing in classes, a high fail rate. Okay. And then broken down by ethnicity, 76.9, broken down by school. So I guess we should look across. Jefferson, all students with 63.1, Asian 76.9, Filipino 75, Hispanic Latino 50, and white 83.3. Oceana 76.1, Asian 92.3, Filipino 88.9, Hispanic Latino 46.2, white 81.5. Terra Nova 59.1, Filipino 70, Hispanic Latino 54, white 65.8. Sorry, I'm neglecting the two or more, which my own son is in. I should be reading these. 42.3. Thornton, 2% all students, and we don't have indicators for the others. Westmore 45.9, Asian 61.2, Filipino 50.9, Hispanic Latino 22.6, white 21.4. So, we can take a look at some of the trends. I mean, I think our Hispanic Latino students at all of our schools are not performing as well as their peers. And it's a predictable number, which should not be. So we have room. You're here. We were way quicker than we thought.
Yeah, way quicker.
So please chime in too, if you want. So
on this one,
yeah,
I know this is the last slide. And then we'll go back.
Yeah, we'll go back to Lori's slides. Mm-hmm.
This is the one that really stood out to me, and I know I've seen it before, but it's still like I don't know why seeing it this way kind of hit me harder. I'm wondering, is it a focus issue? Because to me, just grading, I don't want to lower standards, right? I understand that grading for equity isn't that, but that to me is just one piece. Like, is there more of a focus on getting A to G at Jefferson than there is at the other schools? Because 45%, that means the majority of the kids graduating from Westmore can't go to a CSU or UC. So, and that is not their brand.
I know.
So,
yeah, it is so much to do with scheduling, which is why I'm really, really excited about the 7-period day that Westmore is implementing. You figure they have a very sizable newcomer population at Westmore High School, and so does Jefferson, but the big difference there is the 4x4 and then a traditional schedule. Part of the reason Jefferson implemented the 4x4, if you come in as an English, an ELD1 student, you can't even take history, period. Let alone like the courses don't count for A through G English credit until ELD3.
I see.
So pretty much if you come in as a very limited English proficient newcomer, you're even just looking at the diploma track, like without even A through G. A through G is like a mountain that before they couldn't even hope to climb. And so I would guess that that's the majority of it, is just that, because even then when you bear that out to like a student who might make it to like ELD2, still they're not getting the English A through G credit, and that's all 4 years. So we also this year, like going on right now, is an English EL class in the summer that counts as an English A through G course for some of those students. So it's always in our minds, but some of the circumstances with just fitting everything in, especially when ELD is also double blocked. And it's a similar thing for any student that's completing like a course of study that may have an IEP and have like other courses that they have for their minutes that might not meet A through G requirements. So it's challenging. Just fitting everything in. So schedule creativity is really important.
And I was having the conversation with Corrine about just this, about also just kids failing. So to me, I don't know if you were, I don't know, because I was in this way. You were there when I was like, to me, it was both the schedule and too many failing.
Or D even too,
Yeah.
like.
Right. Just not passing, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many kids not passing. And so for me, that's why I brought up the grading for equity, like looking at our grading practices and policies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to P2.
My apologies.
We were
This
so
is
much,
most
there's
lightning
no,
fast. I was like,
there
oh,
is
it's
no
fine. I'll be
apology.
early
We were
enough to
so
see this
quick
and
at
that.
7:30.
Yeah.
We're never that quick. So, okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Robinson.
Hi, again, apologies, but yeah, so this is the implementation of state standards. And, you know, this is like, I want to say probably the fourth or fifth time that I've filled this out and actually that I've been in this role. And so I know everything looks pretty high, you know, that we're at 4s or 3s in most things. And that is because we just really have made so many strides in these areas, especially with a lot of the teachers on special assignment that we have in place that have really done a lot to support this work with professional learning and adopting instructional materials. And also in just, you know, like the work of an instructional coach is really that last piece of delivering them the instruction and using those instructional materials. I'm particularly excited that this year English language arts piloted at Jefferson High School in the 9th grade Common Lit, which is a really highly accessible online sort of anthology. So we're looking at furthering that pilot next year and perhaps even having a new adoption, which is a little untraditional for us. We're mostly in novel-based instruction, but it can be challenging accessibility wise for those students with IEPs or English learners. And speaking of English learners, you know, we continue to have this as an area of focus, but our work is never done, both for the students that fall into that newcomer category where they're new to the country, and also for our students who have been here for quite some time, but not able to make the progress on LPAC that fall into that long-term learner category. Mathematics. You know, last year I had this at a little bit higher, and I've taken it down this year, not because the work hasn't been important and really a strong area of focus, but our test scores really just aren't reflecting the hard work that I know these teachers are doing. And so we have to just take a look at this. So we're going to have a renewed area of focus. I know, you know, Kristen Ashford presented to you earlier in the year just about continuing, like, what can we really do? How can we make communication better with students and families and community members, and just really looking at to make sure that what we're doing stays solid. Science, another area where I'm really happy to say that we had a physics teacher piloting a new curriculum at Jefferson this year, and all the physics teachers are going to pilot it next fall. And then we'll look into chemistry. And this is just really exciting because when the, you know, next generation science standards came out, the textbook companies and support for these teachers in terms of their instructional materials did not follow suit. Basically, the textbook companies took their old dusty chemistry book and just slapped NGSS on the cover, but didn't actually change anything about what, you know, the standards we're asking students to do. That's finally no longer the case. We found a resource called Open Sci Ed, and we're really excited to explore more of that next year. And that comes along with a lot of professional learning, which as a district, as the director of curriculum instruction, I feel like I have been remiss in offering to our science teachers to the same level that we offer it to some of our other subject areas. And history, social science is really just, you know, they're killing it. They've you know, USR has really helped us gain a lot of ground in terms of like the State Seal of Civic Engagement work, continuing work on the scope and sequence, all of that. The next slide, and I was hoping Ms. Shriek was still going to be in there, because I know that the next slide talks about some of the like non-big core, you know, career technical education and health and physical education. We actually have a lead for the first time. It's not just something that we put on Ms. Bossuino's plate, you know, and we actually have a PE teacher at Jefferson that's helping us work through our scope and sequence for physical education and helping really get those teachers aligned and support each other. And it was actually really like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm infantilizing the teachers, but it was almost cute watching them work. They were so excited because it's just an area we've ignored. Like, you know, Corinne and I have not, we were like, PE, even though she is the PE award winner of her high school, you know, it was a scarier thing for us to touch in terms of standards. And so I really appreciate Nikki Touye for taking on that leadership. Visual and performing arts, this has been an area of focus because of Prop 28, but also under the leadership of Mr. Latte at Westmore, and then world language, our world language lead, Leah Anderson at Oceana and Alex Mullen at Westmore, have done a fantastic job, just like really having a lot of district-wide collaboration for the world language teachers. And yeah, we could always get better at the offering of professional learning that we have for our teachers. I'd love to, you know, we always would love to hear more the type of professional learning that they would like to receive, but I think we're doing a fairly okay job in terms of what we currently offer and the openness we have to like their requests. So thank you for allowing us to go a bit out of order.
No. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just a comment, really. I mean, what strikes me is that there's a lot of good information here, a lot of good news. You know, we're on the right track. We know where we need to continue to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clear,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really, I'm glad that we have this level of transparency now, especially utilizing the particular indicators, especially with P7 and P6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sounds like the way you're grading ourselves, Dr. Robinson, I mean, you're being realistic, not being overly conservative, but also not really just patting ourselves on the back either, but recognizing the reality of where we're at. And I think it really just, again, speaks to the incredible amount of work that you and everybody else here is doing. So thank you.
I want to go back to P6. And so with that level of the disparity there for Black students feeling safe, is there a plan to, or what are we thinking about doing to address that?
Well, I think
No, we have not like come up with a plan specifically for African-American students. I will say that all of the work that we're doing in the district around safety and climate, namely the work that we're doing with National Equity Project, hearing from students if they feel seen, heard, and valued at school. We're very focused on that. We're looking at our underrepresented students, namely Black and Brown students in our district.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was actually talking with Toby Scruggs Hussein, who wrote a book about working with Black students and families. And so, but there's not a plan written, you know, we don't have a plan in a real hard sense, but we see the data and candidly, we know already, like it's work that we're working on. But no, we don't have like a plan for African-American students per se, more general.
How detailed is the data from the surveys? I mean, how detailed can it be in answering questions to help you realize what they mean by not feeling safe so that you could actually formulate a plan that's
a good question. So the Healthy Kids survey is, you know, like a fill-in, I feel safe. It's not, you don't get a lot of that personal data from the Healthy Kids survey, but that's actually why we're doing the work with National Equity Project. We gave our own survey. We created like a Google survey and asked the kids and then gave them, they could write short answers. And then we did a series of listening sessions. We just did it at Jefferson and at Oceana, but we're going to expand that next year. And so when you have they call them, you know, the term is empathy listening session, but it's basically just having a conversation with kids. You're able to get at more real information. But yeah, from the Healthy Kids survey, it's kind of fill in the.
I think you need more details.
Yeah.
Put something together.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mhm.
So regarding safety at school,
Mhm.
how, I know we've only been gathering this data for the last 2 years, but, and these questions this is coming from the Healthy Kids Survey, is that right?
Mhm.
So, but how does that tie into our work and wellness? Because we do a lot of work in wellness, and how does that tie into how kids feel safe at school?
Well, thank you, Jake. I was preoccupied trying to get back to that slide while you were talking candidly. Oh, now we're not on safety at school again.
I think you excellent.
Did I just touch it?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's very sensitive.
So, so how does it tie in? I mean, I think it's very tied into the wellness. I feel like it's what they're perceiving, right? And I think it goes the actual numbers of altercations and things like that. I think it's emotional safety. It's safety you feel in your classroom. And so our wellness counselors and our wellness program is very tied to that. I know that, I think all of the schools have I don't know what they call them, different rooms that kids can go to if they need to kind of take a time out. But I think it's very connected. And I feel like it's kind of like we're making great efforts, and there's a lot of great work happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're still in a time where there is a lot of trauma that kids are experiencing. But we need school to be the haven, right? The safe haven for them. And so, so, I mean, I think it's very connected, and we're always looking at how our kids are feeling and trying to meet them where they are. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at numbers. So I'm just
what were you
looking at
looking? What do
numbers,
you?
But then but it doesn't really tell you what are we doing, how are we going to help them? But
This
gives us an idea of where they are right now.
This is what this is what they're reporting, how they feel. Yeah, it's not I can certainly get information about all the different things that we're doing, but that's not listed here.
Again, I know this is not to say that we're not doing a lot of good work. Of course, we're doing good work.
Yeah.
But I do think that level of disparity, while we're doing something for all students, is great. That level of disparity for me seems like there's something needs to be looked into.
I agree.
Specific to that subgroup.
Right. Was it on the next slide or the slide before too?
Yeah. I mean, the slide before, there's some, but it's not that drastic.
Yeah.
So I would just, and then maybe looking at it might be because of the numbers, it may be a single school. It may be something that, we could look into and figure out what that is.
Right.
But when I see things that drastic, it just kind of sets off alarms. And if you're not feeling safe, you're not learning.
I agree. Yeah. I completely agree.
But but I do think that we, of course, you're looking at this, we continue to move in the right direction. And then there's just certain things that we have to have.
We have to do more.
Focus.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless anything else? No. Thank you both so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to our action items. First item is our adoption of our 2024-2025 Local Control Accountability Plan. We have had this brought to us a couple of times. So I don't know if there's any questions. If not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the 24-25 LCAP.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, moving down to human resources, we have my computer. Wait, come on there, because I want to read it. Thank you. Moving on to our variable term waiver for Harley Imaras.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This evening before you is a variable term waiver for Harley Jane. She is currently a special education teacher at Thornton High School. She's been with us for a year. She's been doing great work. This waiver will waive
just the basic skills requirement, and she is very clear on what she needs to do to finish her last little bits to complete this requirement.
Okay. Unless there's any questions, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, earlier today, we hired a director of communications, CT and staff housing. And now we have an update to the job description, turning it back over to our director of human resources. Ms. Newman.
Good evening, everyone. The change to the job description reflects that we are adding some career technical education responsibilities to the position, and then dialing back some of the housing requirements as previously needed when the position first was created.
Unless there's any questions, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our business services. First item up is our 2024-2025 budget adoption. Again, we had this presentation earlier, and this is just to approve it unless there's any questions. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now moving on to our contract with Field Turf for Terranova High School baseball and softball fields. I know this is going to require some discussion, so turning it over to our Deputy Superintendent of Business Service, Ms. Van Raphorst, and Stephanie Phillips. Are you presenting on the two?
Thank you, President Salahuddin. Good evening, everyone. There is before you a contract with Field Turf to replace the baseball and softball fields at Terranova High School. The amount of this cost for this portion of the work is $10,990,000 to be paid with bond funds. This proposal does not include the buildings, so we would still need to approve a separate contract later for about $1 million for the snack shack, bathrooms, and scorekeepers booth. But everything else is included in here. This is a Sourcewell contract, which means that it was nationally bid, and it's like a piggyback format. So we are getting the best prices that were found by like a nationwide search, and it is a contract that anybody can piggyback onto. So that's how that works. So this contract would include all of the things we talked about when we had the presentation from the architect back in October for the feasibility study. I don't really have anything else to add. If you have questions, like President Salahuddin said, our Director of Construction, Stephanie Phillips, is here, and she can answer more questions than me, probably.
Opening up for questions.
Just real quick. So I'm just flipping through. So this means that this is inclusive of all of the drainage work that needs to be done at the site.
Yes.
Yes. So, since the feasibility study, we have gotten more information from the engineers and showed that I should let you talk about it, but the soil that is there and the drainage problems that result from that type of soil were more extensive than we originally thought. And that accounts for some of the cost, but this will take care of the problem, we are assured.
Yeah.
And why are we holding off on doing the outbuildings to the?
Just separate contract. Am I on?
I don't know. Is it green?
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
It's not a microphone. It's just so they can hear you.
Separate contract. So this, the companies that do this piggyback contract don't do buildings. Okay. They do fields, and they do civil engineering and electrical and all that, but they do not do buildings. So
we don't really plan to hold off.
No, I didn't bring that. I wanted this to come first, and then once this was done, I would bring the other contract. I just wasn't ready to bring the other contract today.
Cool.
And that also just will be a piggyback contract as well.
I just have a question because I'm excited, interested. You know what? I'm already excited and interested. I'm not going to ask you a question.
I actually have one more.
Go ahead.
I did read somewhere that this bid came in or something a little higher than initially estimated. and then you had to maybe do some value engineering or something.
A lot of value engineering, yeah.
Was there anything specific that really helped cut back on that? I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's several things. I think one of the bigger ones was that instead of off hauling dirt and paying for it to be dumped down in Half Moon Bay, we're gonna take it to Upper Field at Terra Nova and fill in all those gopher holes and compact it and reseed it so we can continue to park on it as needed.
The other thing I think that was a significant savings is the dugouts.
Yes.
I think they were over designed. They had, kind of like college level or professional level dugouts.
Yeah, they were modular buildings. We didn't need modular buildings. The rest of our schools all have chain link. And I'm in fact going to add a roof to the chain link dugout with slats going across it, which the new Westmore ones don't have. So it'll be a little bit better than that. But it'll be on par with the rest of our schools.
Yeah. So those were the two main parts that we pulled back.
Cool. Thank you.
And we will be ready in time for the start of the baseball season.
Yes, they, that was part of the problem, was trying to negotiate the schedule. They were coming in originally and starting in July and going to May. So I worked with them to figure out ways that we could do it. So they've committed to having it done February 7th, which, looking at the schedule from last year, is about the time they start their scrimmage. So I don't anticipate it being a problem because they practice after work hours. So even if they are finishing up some things, it shouldn't be a problem. Also, this particular company, because we got multiple bids, this particular company is going to bring the fields in to start before the other one was. And so they're going to start them in December. So the actual field part should be complete, and then they'll just be finishing things around. So you don't need that to practice. Yeah, and then the buildings, I'm not quite sure on the timing of that. So that's why I wasn't ready to bring the contract. But again, don't need the buildings to have practice and scrimmages and such. So hopefully that'll get pulled in within that time frame. But if it doesn't, it's I need to sort that out with the person or the company.
If there's any other questions, can I get a motion?
Move to approve the contract with Field Turf for the Terra Nova baseball and softball fields.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on, any consideration for future agenda items? Oh, hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn the final board meeting at 699 Serramonte Boulevard.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Hey.
And we did it in less than an hour. Okay, so if you could just go in and bring the slide.